Hey guys, hope you're all doing well. Today I'm out on the NC750 and taking it for the first ride after putting on my center stand. So I'm going to pull off over here. This looks like a good spot just to show you what it looks like and kind of how to work it. Well, I want to try to get a better view of this thing, so let me try this out. So here's the center stand. This does not come stock with the bike. I had to install this myself, and I'll tell you how I did it, and I've got some video footage of the install on it. Although after having installed, I do have some opinions on better ways that could have been done. So here's the other side. So this is the first bike that I've ever installed or even had a center stand on, so I am still trying to get the hang of this. But from my experience, I found the best way to get this thing up on the center stand is to straighten the handlebars, and it does not take a lot of strength, but it does take some coordination. So you know, it's okay to have it on the regular stand, but when you push down on the center stand, you want it to balance on the two legs of the center stand. So right there, it's probably the most balanced on both of the legs. I don't know if you can see that, but it is touching on both sides, so that's the starting point that you want. And basically from that point you want to pull up a little bit. Now you can do that on, you know, passenger pegs or the grab rails, however feels comfortable for you. What you don't want to do is rock the bike back and forth. I did try that. I thought that's how you had to do it, grab the handlebars and yank the thing back, but it's not necessary. The main thing you want to do is just keep constant pressure on the center stand as you pull up a little bit. And got it on the first try that time. So here's the other side. I did put a little bit of scratches on here. I'm trying to get these springs in place. I used the spring puller, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. But the scratches aren't a big deal to me because you're going to scrape this on the ground anyway. So right now it seems really stable like this. And the main reason I installed the center stand is so that I could perform regular chain maintenance on here. So yeah, that's the center stand installed on the 2021 Honda NC750X. I do have some pointers on the install process. So when I do these installs for you guys, I like to go by the manual because that's what the manufacturer intended to have the install look like. So I don't want to show you something different than what the manufacturer recommends, although I know there are different methods to perform the same tasks. So in this case, with the center stand, I followed the directions, but Honda does also make some recommendations. If you're having a tough time, they recommend an alternate way to do the install. I would recommend the alternate way. So let me tell you how I did it first. What I did was I installed the center stand and put the shaft through the center stand, so it was attached, but there was no spring holding it in place. So it was basically just dragging on the ground. And then the hard part was putting the springs on. So it's got double springs. It's a small spring inside of a large spring, and getting those springs on the spring hook and then on the bottom of the stand is really difficult. I was doing this install by myself when I first started. So when I got the shaft part installed, I was on my own, and when I was trying to put the springs on, the bike nearly fell on top of me. So I held off until somebody could assist and hold the bike so I could get the springs on the rest of the way. But Honda does recommend an alternate method. So with both sides of the springs attached to the center stand, you hold it in place while a helper pushes the shaft in from the other side while you line up the right side of the shaft so that it goes through. and the shaft can be fully seated and screwed into place. So to take it off the center stand, just put your regular side stand down and just push it slightly forward. And there you go. Today I'm in the garage with the NC750X and I'm going to be installing a center stand. So we have the center stand here in this box. I'll show you exactly what comes in with the kit. So we have the springs and the little rubber bumper and the little spring hook and the bolt to hold the shaft into place. Then we have the shaft itself. And finally the center stand. So here's a closer look at the parts. This is the shaft that goes through, holds the center stand to the bike. And you have the two springs. This part is a little rubber bumper so the center stand doesn't hit your bike frame. This is the spring hook that attaches to the bike frame and the springs attached to this. And finally here's the bolt that holds the shaft into place. So some other stuff that I needed, I just got some regular dish soap, make up some soapy water so I can put this, this little rubber bumper in here. Makes it easier to install. I got some rubber gloves, some shop towels, some thread locker. I do have a spring puller, so I picked some Bel-Ray waterproof grease. This was highly recommended in the motorcycle community. I've never actually used it before, but being waterproof, I figured it would hold up better. So according to Honda directions, this bolt has to come off, and also this bolt down here. So the reason to drop the exhaust is to get to this little screw hole over here where the spring hook installs into. Now you could probably do it without dropping the exhaust, but if you want to get a torque wrench in there to torque it down, you're probably going to need to drop the exhaust. Okay, it should be just enough wiggle room in order to get in there with a torque wrench. Okay, I'm putting a little bit of thread locker on here. Alright, I'm setting this to 16 foot-pounds. There it goes. So I'm not sure if this part comes out or not. That would make it a little bit easier to move this down, so if any of you guys know, please let me know, but I didn't want to mess with it too much. I had enough clearance to get into where I needed to without trying to pull this out, so I could drop the exhaust a little bit further. So now the spring bolt is in place, I can tighten the exhaust back up again. Okay, while this is still soapy, I'm just going to put this into place. So the rest of the soapy water I'm going to hold aside to wash off my exhaust when I'm all done. So next we have the two spring pieces. So the small spring goes through the large spring, and you want to have the two skinny ends facing the same direction. Okay, now for the install. So the shaft goes through the center stand, and here's the spot on the bike that it goes through. So I need to put some grease on this. I want to make sure that this hole lines up over here, because that's what holds your shaft into place. And a little bit of Loctite on this 5mm bolt here. The instructions say it's 6mm, but I found that mine is a 5mm. I'm torquing this to 12 Newton meters. Okay, make sure that it pivots freely, and also make sure that the rubber bumper is hitting in the right spot. Okay, final step is to install the spring. Honda recommends installing the thinner spring first to make it easier. Okay, I managed to get the first spring on. So I put the hook part facing forward instead of the other way around. Next is to just get that second spring in place, and I'll be all set. Okay, I got it. Yeah. Thank you. So I finally got the second larger spring in place. It wasn't exactly easy, but if I had to do it over again, I would probably buy a larger spring puller. This spring puller is probably good for exhaust springs, but these springs are a lot heavier than those, so probably need something a little bit bigger than this.
So hopefully this video will be helpful to you guys if anybody's thinking about putting the center stand on the NC750X. My final recommendation, I think the center stand is awesome, it's very useful, and it's not too difficult to install if you know how to do it. So what are my takeaways from this install? Well, if you're going to go the method that I took by using a spring puller, I definitely recommend getting a helper, at least for the end part when you're pulling the springs on. But in general, I would recommend using Honda's alternate method of hooking the springs up first and then putting the shaft in. You're going to need someone to help you right from the start, but I think it would have been a lot easier, and I would have avoided, getting some of those little scratches from the ends of the springs, the sharp parts of the springs, scraping some of the paint off that little hook part on the center stand. Not a big deal, it's going to get scratched up anyway, but if you're really concerned about it, keeping it pristine as long as possible, then that spring puller method probably is not the way to go. Anyway, if you enjoyed the video, please click that like button. It really helps the channel. And I will see you guys on the next one.